The restaurant smelled like butter and wine. Crystal glasses caught the light from the chandeliers above us. My fiancé's parents were smiling politely across the table, asking my mom about the ceremony plans. That's when she cleared her throat. "We actually need to discuss something," she said, folding her napkin with careful fingers. The room quieted. "I think it would be better if you postponed the wedding," she continued, eyes on me. "Your sister is going through a difficult time. She needs our focus more right now." A fork clinked against porcelain. Someone shifted in their seat. I felt every pair of eyes turn toward me. I didn't defend myself. I didn't react. Because I had spent 32 years learning how to sit still while someone else decided my worth. My mother said it calmly. That was the part that always worked in her favor. Not dramatic. Not cruel on the surface. Just practical. "She's fragile right now," she added softly, as if explaining the weather. "It wouldn't be fair to celebrate when your sister is struggling." Struggling. My sister, Lila, sat beside her, eyes glossy but dry. She stared at the table like she didn't want to be involved, but she didn't object either. My fiancé, Daniel, reached for my hand under the table. His thumb brushed against my knuckles once. Steady. Grounded. His parents remained polite. Confused. Silent. I could feel heat rising in my chest, but my face stayed neutral. "What exactly are you asking?" I said. My mother sighed gently, like I was being difficult. "Just push it back a few months. Let Lila have this time. She just ended her engagement. People will talk if we host a wedding so soon after. People will talk. When I was 12, people talked when Lila didn't make the school play and I did. My mom asked me to act humble, so my sister wouldn't feel overshadowed. When I graduated college first in my class, Mom suggested I skip the celebration dinner because Lila had failed 2 courses that semester. When Daniel proposed last year, my mother's first question wasn't about the ring or the date. It was, "Have you told your sister yet?" There had always been an invisible ranking system in our house. And I had always been second. "Have you ever realized you were raised to shrink so someone else could expand?" Daniel squeezed my hand again. "This wedding has been planned for a year," he said carefully. "Deposits are paid." Mom nodded, still calm. "Money can be adjusted. Family cannot. Family cannot." The words sat heavy in the air. What she meant was simple. Lila's feelings mattered more than my milestones. I looked at my sister then. She finally spoke, barely above a whisper. "I just don't think I can handle it." Handle what? My happiness? And suddenly, I understood something that had taken decades to see clearly. This wasn't about timing. It was about hierarchy. And my mother had just confirmed, in front of witnesses, exactly where I stood. The request didn't end at dinner. It followed me home. The next morning, my phone buzzed before I even got out of bed. A message from my mom. "We've been thinking. It would be mature of you to consider postponing. Lila hasn't slept in days." Mature. That word again. The one that always meant sacrifice. By noon, my aunt called. "Your mother says the timing might look insensitive." Insensitive. By evening, my cousin texted, "Maybe a small courthouse ceremony for now? Big wedding later?" The suggestions came dressed as concern, but they all leaned in one direction. Shrink. Adjust. Wait. I sat at our kitchen table, sunlight cutting across the wood grain, and stared at the seating chart I'd spent weeks perfecting. My handwriting was careful. Every name placed with intention. I thought about the first venue tour, how my mom walked ahead of me, pointing out flaws. It's nice, but Lila would have chosen something softer. Lila would have chosen. I remembered dress shopping too. The consultant zipped me into lace and silk, and my mom tilted her head. It's beautiful, she said. But are you sure it's not too much? Too much. I had learned early that my joy needed to be edited. Even when Daniel and I announced the engagement, Mom hugged me lightly and then immediately turned to Lila. Don't worry, she told her. Your time will come too. Like mine had been borrowed. Sitting there at the kitchen table, I asked myself something I had avoided for years. How many of my milestones had been negotiated down so someone else could feel centered? Daniel came home early that day. He found me staring at the chart. You don't look unsure, he said quietly. You look tired. He was right. Tired of being reasonable. Tired of being understanding. Tired of earning space in my own life. Later that night, my mom called again. If you go through with it as planned, she said gently, don't expect us to celebrate the same way. There it was. Not a request anymore. A condition. And for the first time, I didn't feel hurt. I felt clarity. Clarity doesn't arrive loudly. It settles. The next few days were quiet, but not peaceful. My mother stopped sending long messages and shifted to short, pointed ones. Have you reconsidered? We're trying to avoid unnecessary tension. Unnecessary. Lila posted vague quotes online about betrayal and loyalty. Family members commented with sympathy. No names mentioned, but the implication was clear. I wasn't just planning a wedding. I was disrupting a balance that had always favored her. I started replaying older memories with new eyes. The time my birthday dinner was moved because Lila had a headache. The way Mom once told relatives I was the strong one, so it made sense if I adjusted. Strong had always meant silent. Daniel noticed the shift in me. I stopped defending my mother in casual conversation. I stopped explaining her behavior. Instead, I listened. At work, I found myself staring at my calendar during lunch breaks, looking at the wedding date circled in blue ink. What exactly was I being asked to give up? Not just a venue. Not just deposits. But proof that my life could move forward without permission. One evening, I visited my parents' house to return a cake stand I had borrowed months ago. Lila's car was in the driveway. Inside, the living room was dim. Curtains half drawn. My mom and sister sat close together on the couch. When they saw me, the conversation stopped. That silence felt practiced. We were just talking about the guest list, Mom said smoothly. Some people feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. With what? I asked. With the optics, she replied. It seems insensitive to celebrate while your sister is healing. Healing from what? A broken engagement? Or the idea that she wasn't the center of the room anymore? I looked at Lila. She avoided my eyes. And that's when it fully formed in my mind. This wasn't temporary. It was structural. My wedding wasn't clashing with her crisis. It was challenging her position. Have you ever realized that the issue isn't the event, but who it places in the spotlight? I drove home that night without music. And I knew I had reached a quiet decision. The decision didn't feel dramatic. It felt steady. The next morning, I opened my laptop and stared at the guest list. My parents' names sat near the top, followed by Lila's, highlighted in pale yellow. I didn't rush. I made coffee first. I folded laundry. I answered 2 work emails. I wanted my mind clear. Then I clicked on their names. For a moment, I just looked at them. 32 years of shared holidays. Photos on mantles. Group messages about birthdays and Sunday dinners. And a lifetime of quiet negotiations. Have you ever noticed how removing someone from a list can feel heavier than adding them? I selected all 3 names and pressed delete. The screen didn't change much. Just a small gap where they used to be. But something in my chest shifted. Not anger. Relief. Daniel walked in halfway through the morning and saw the open spreadsheet. "You're sure?" he asked softly. "I am." I wasn't canceling my wedding. I was canceling the expectation that I had to beg for support. By afternoon, I emailed the venue coordinator to confirm final headcount adjustments. I called the caterer. I rearranged tables. Logistics. Simple. Practical. No announcement. No confrontation. Later that evening, my mom called. "I heard from Aunt Carol that you finalized the guest list," she said carefully. "You didn't include us." There was a long pause between her words. "That's correct," I replied. Silence on the other end. Then, a tremor I hadn't heard before. "You're uninviting your own family?" I kept my voice calm. "I'm moving forward with people who want to celebrate." Another pause. "You're choosing a wedding over your sister." No. I was choosing myself. But I didn't say it that way. "I'm choosing not to delay my life," I answered. The line went quiet. And for the first time, I wasn't waiting for her approval. The fallout didn't explode. It unraveled. Within an hour of that call, my phone lit up with notifications. Messages layered over each other until the screen blurred. "How could you do this to your mother? Family is forever. Weddings come and go." I sat on the edge of our bed, phone in my lap, reading each message slowly. The afternoon light filtered through the curtains in thin lines across the wall. No one asked why. Only how I could. Then my mom sent a longer text. "You are humiliating us. People will assume we chose not to attend. Do you understand what that does to our reputation?" There it was. Reputation. Not feelings. Not love. Optics. I typed once. Deleted. Typed again. Deleted again. What was there to explain that hadn't already been clear for decades? Daniel sat beside me quietly. He didn't tell me what to do. He didn't try to mediate. He just stayed. My sister finally called that evening. Her voice sounded fragile at first. Almost wounded. "I can't believe you'd do this," she said. "Do what?" I asked evenly. "Cut us out. Over one request. One request." Is that what she believed this was? "I didn't cut you out," I said. "I removed people who don't support this marriage." A sharp inhale. "You're punishing me because I'm going through something." "No," I replied softly. "I'm refusing to shrink again." The line went quiet. For years, I had adjusted my tone to keep her calm. I had celebrated her promotions louder than my own. I had rearranged holidays to accommodate her mood swings. But something had shifted inside me. When you stop chasing validation, the silence feels different. That night, my mom sent a group message to extended family. I found out through a cousin who forwarded it. She has chosen to exclude us from her big day, my mother wrote. We respect her decision, though it breaks our hearts. Breaks our hearts. The narrative was already being crafted. I imagined the phone calls that would follow. The sympathetic sighs. The version of events where I was impulsive, dramatic, ungrateful. For a brief moment, doubt tried to slip in. Was I being harsh? Could I have handled it differently? Have you ever second-guessed your boundary simply because others reacted loudly to it? I walked into the kitchen and poured a glass of water. The tap ran steady. Clear. Daniel followed me. You don't look regretful, he said. I'm not, I answered honestly. I felt something I hadn't expected. Calm. Not vindictive. Not triumphant. Just grounded. The next morning, my mother showed up at our apartment building without warning. The intercom buzzed sharply while I was answering emails. I need to speak to you, she said through the speaker. Her voice sounded composed. Public ready. I opened the door downstairs. She stood there in a navy coat, posture straight, lips pressed thin. For a second, I saw the woman who had organized every school fundraiser and holiday dinner flawlessly. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. You'll regret this when you look back. Regret what? I asked. Choosing pride over family. There it was again. As if self-respect were arrogance. I'm choosing peace, I replied. Her expression shifted, just slightly. The calm mask slipping at the edges. You're tearing this family apart. No. The structure had always been uneven. I was simply refusing to hold it up alone. She looked at me for a long moment, as if waiting for me to soften. To apologize. To fold. But I didn't. And in that stillness, I realized something important. For the first time in my life, she didn't know how to reposition me. After my mother left the building that morning, I stood in the hallway for a long time. The fluorescent light above me hummed faintly. Somewhere down the corridor, a door closed. Ordinary sounds. Normal life. My heart wasn't racing. That surprised me. For years, any tension with my family left me shaky, apologetic, ready to repair things I hadn't broken. But this felt different. It felt quiet. That afternoon, I muted the family group chat. Not dramatically. Just one small tap on the screen. The thread disappeared from the top of my phone. Silence replaced the noise. Have you ever realized that peace sometimes begins with something as simple as a notification you choose not to see? The next few days were strangely calm. No more long messages. No more persuasive speeches about optics. Just distant, polite updates sent through relatives. My aunt texted me, "Your mom is devastated." I didn't reply immediately. Devastated because she wouldn't attend? Or devastated because she couldn't control the story? Daniel and I spent that weekend finalizing seating adjustments. We moved 2 tables closer together. We added his college roommate's wife to a space that used to hold my parents' names. When I rewrote the place cards, I noticed my handwriting looked steadier. There was no anger in it. Just clarity. One evening, I opened the old photo box my mom had given me when I moved out years ago. Childhood birthdays. School recitals. Family vacations. In almost every photo, Lila stood in the center. I stood slightly to the side. Smiling. Adjusted. I ran my finger along one of the edges of a picture where I was about 16. I remembered that day. I had won a regional art award. The photo was taken at dinner afterward. But the dinner had ended early because Lila felt overwhelmed by attention. I had forgotten that detail until now. How many small celebrations had quietly shrunk to accommodate someone else? I closed the box gently. Not with bitterness. With understanding. I wasn't cutting them off. I wasn't staging a scene. I wasn't retaliating. I was stepping out of a pattern. The week before the wedding, a mutual family friend called. I heard things got tense, she said carefully. Are you sure you want to do this without them? I paused. Do what? Move forward. That phrase stayed with me. Move forward. As if progress required permission. I'm not doing it without them, I said. I'm doing it without resistance. She didn't argue. And neither did I. On the night before the wedding, Daniel and I sat at our kitchen table, eating takeout from paper cartons because our fridge was nearly empty. The house smelled like soy sauce and lilies from the bouquets delivered earlier. I felt calm. Not because everything was perfect. But because I wasn't bracing for impact. My phone buzzed once around 9 p.m. A message from my mom. I hope you know this will change things. I read it twice. Of course it would change things. That was the point. I didn't respond. Instead, I placed my phone face down on the table and reached for Daniel's hand. Sometimes withdrawal isn't about escape. It's about alignment. The next morning, as I stood in front of the mirror adjusting my dress, I noticed something subtle. I wasn't scanning for disapproval. I wasn't anticipating critique. I wasn't shrinking. For the first time in my life, I was fully centered in my own moment. And I didn't feel the urge to apologize for it. The ceremony hall smelled like fresh flowers and polished wood. Soft music played in the background as guests found their seats. There were no empty chairs at the front row labeled with my parents' names. No tension about who might walk in late. Just stillness. When I stepped onto the aisle, I didn't look for my mother's expression. I didn't search the crowd for my sister's approval. I looked straight ahead. Daniel's eyes were steady. Warm. Certain. The vows were simple. Clear. No theatrics. No grand gestures. Just promises spoken without negotiation. As we stood there, I felt something settle in me. Not rebellion. Ownership. After the ceremony, during the reception, a few relatives approached quietly. We didn't realize, one aunt said, her voice softer than usual. Another cousin squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you. That surprised me. Because for years, the narrative had been that I was difficult if I asserted myself. But something had shifted. My mother and sister didn't post dramatic messages that day. No public declarations. No visible outrage. Instead, I heard through a distant relative that my mom had told people she respected my independence. Respected. The same word she used years ago when I moved out and refused to return home after college. Translation: she couldn't reposition me anymore. Have you ever noticed that when you stop arguing, people have to confront the silence you leave behind? Weeks later, I received a short card in the mail. No apology. Just a simple line in my mother's handwriting. We hope you are happy. For the first time, I read those words without searching for subtext. I was. Not because I excluded them. Not because of any meltdown. But because I had stopped begging for a seat at my own life. If this resonates with you, share your story below. Like this video if you've ever chosen yourself quietly. This wasn't the end of my family story. It was the beginning of my quiet strength.